Wait, you have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hey everybody, welcome. It's time for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor as we roll into September. I don't know where we are in September. It's, again, 2020. This is like it's like Flight of the Navigator for all of us. We get picked up by a robot voiced by Paul Rubens in 1971, and when 5 minutes pass in our world, we land and our parents are old. People are dead. Our younger brother is 25 years old and creepy, and here we are. But in lighter news, although I wouldn't really describe Flight of the Navigator as a heavy story, but it did bum me out as a kid. No one needs to hear this. I have a therapist for this. Actually, I don't. That's another story. I should. Anyway, it's time for a brand new edition of the show. Welcome. If this is your first time checking out the show, my name is Ken Reed. I am a on hiatus stand-up comedian from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm not on hiatus from Boston. I'm on hiatus from stand-up comedy because it doesn't exist right now due to a global pandemic. I am doing this podcast each and every week, as I have been since Valentine's Day 2014. And every week I welcome a guest to the show. Used to be in person, but now it's virtually, and we discuss a back issue of TV Guide magazine from my personal collection and look through and discuss what they'd watched that week, go on a lot of tangents, talk about them, talk about all kinds of things, and it's a lot of fun, and it's probably my favorite thing I've ever done. And this week's episode is one of my favorite ones I've done in a long time. My guest this week is the incredible Scott Valentine. You probably best know Scott as Nick from Family Ties and The Art of Being Nick, the pilot that sadly did not get picked up by our series, which we talk about here. But he is so much more than that. He is a very funny guy, incredibly nice guy, a producer. He's now an investment banker, and it's a pretty amazing journey. In addition to all the great stuff that he has done, we discuss My Demon Lover here, which is a thing people had a lot of questions about, and a lot of other things. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, the one and only Scott Valentine.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Scott Valentine, how are you, sir?
I am well, Mr. Reed. How are you?
I'm doing okay. This is the first day in like 3 months that we didn't either have a tornado or really humid day. So we lost power the other day. It's been apocalyptic. So this is nice.
Well, we got to move you out to Southern California where it's all just roses and sunshine, okay?
That's what I've been saying to everybody for years. So if you need anyone that needs like a houseboy, or I'm not great with pools, but I'll try to clean them. Anything like that, I'm down.
Dude, we can teach you, so come on out, okay?
All right, nice. I can learn. I am trainable.
All right, and you can have the carriage house.
Excellent. I know. I will tend to the horses. But you're originally an East Coast guy. You grew up in Saratoga Springs, right?
And yeah, exactly. I'll be heading back to Saratoga actually soon. Were it not for the COVID, I'd be back there presently.
Just to visit?
Just to actually relocate. My mom is getting rather on in her years, and she's still sharp mentally, but physically she needs a little help.
Are you an only child?
No.
Okay.
my siblings my siblings have said enough. Yeah. Okay, I can't take her anymore, and you better get your ass back here, or else there's going to be a murder that you're going to read about in the paper.
You'll be starring in the movie of what happens here. Have you been out there since you moved originally?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you know Saratoga at all. It's a beautiful town.
It's kind of near Lake George, right? We used to go up there when I was a
Correct.
kid. We used to go to Frankenstein's Castle Wax Museum.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Us too. Oh my God. Saratoga has, as you know, the oldest thoroughbred track in the nation. Summer home of the New York City Ballet, Philadelphia Philharmonic. There's a great liberal arts school there, Skidmore. And also my honey lives there, who I hope to turn from my honey to my wife. So,
And is that technically in the Catskills? Is that where Saratoga Springs is? I always get that.
no,
confused.
It's in the foothills and the majestic Adirondacks.
Ah, the Adirondacks, like the seltzer. But a similar kind of it feels sort of New Englandy, even though it's upstate.
Oh, very much
that
so.
Sort of small town nature, and very, very different from Southern California.
Very different. It's beautiful. And, part of the reason to move not only was acting, but to get away from the freeze your butt off temperatures.
It's brutal.
And due to global warming, which doesn't exist,
Nope.
Just some roost dreamed up by the liberal left, the fact that I think they only had 2 significant snowstorms last year. And we used to have, obviously I was a kid, but the snowbanks used to be, up here when you were a kid, and literally probably at least a month of sub-zero temperatures. I think it maybe got close to zero, but didn't go below.
That's what it's been like here. It's just insane. Like, I grew up here in Boston my whole life, and yeah, same for the winters. And we've either had a winter where it's like 3 storms in a row with 14 feet of snow each, and then it's like 65 degrees the next day, or it's just everything's broken. So you might as well live wherever you want.
Exactly. Live where you want. Pretty soon where I'm at in LA, that's going to be, it no longer will be beachfront property. It's going to be, the ocean.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the comedian Bill Hicks said California will eventually be Arizona Bay.
Yes, it will.
What he used to call it. But you strike me as a very sort of New York guy, or at least that was the sort of roles you would get. It seemed very New York. And so It's weird that you've been out there so long.
Ken, I was run over by a truck. It ran over and dragged. I had no desire to move to California at all whatsoever. I wanted to stay in New York, do plays, and do 1 movie a year so I could actually feed myself.
Right.
Got run over by the truck and I couldn't get arrested in New York. And I thought, well, shit, I got to go out where nobody knows about this. Came out in 84 and I was literally going to come out, get a job and go back. And here I am almost 40 years later.
Right. A story I've heard from many East Coasters, I went out to audition for one job and now it's 40 years later. It's happened for quite a lot of people. But one of the first things you might have booked out there was it a Night Rider? That might have been one of the first things you did on.
No, the first thing was Family Ties.
Oh, was it really?
It was Family Ties. I had my agent, who was a very, very pretty gay fella from New York. And when I was looking for an agent, I wanted somebody who was gay and Jewish, and was like, I need somebody from that clan. And he decided to move his office from New York, keep an office in New York, but open an office in LA. So I was very lucky. I transitioned out here, having an agent. I had a boatload of money from my lawsuit settlement from being run over. And for 10 months, I think some weeks, I literally was going on about 20 auditions in a week.
Wow.
And this guy, he just kept putting me up. And in July of 85, I got what was supposed to be a one-time gig. And I was the date that wouldn't leave.
Yeah, it was it was a plot device character for one episode.
Exactly. That was it. Exactly. Gary Goldberg, I don't know, you remember Gary.
Oh, yeah.
A sweetheart of a guy. Just a wonderful guy. Alan Uger, who created the character that I played, another sweetheart of a guy. And come on, as an actor, to be able to step into a situation like that and have somebody like Meredith Baxter Birney, Michael Gross, Michael Fox, Justine Bateman, Tina Yothers, all who are extremely talented, extremely bright. Gary and Michael, as we all know, have very much that symbiotic relationship. And they went on to many successes. Yeah. And literally people would say, oh, you do such a great job. And I would say, thank you very much. I'm very appreciative. But really, it's the writers. And all you got to do is say the line, hit your mark, and don't fuck up. Stay out of the way. That
cast are just comedic sitcom killers. Like, they know how to do a joke like few people who've done, because sitcom's a weird thing. It's not quite theater.
It was different having done only theater and film before going on Family Ties. It was weird. Gary Goldberg used to always say that it must have been difficult because he said, you're playing a character that nobody likes.
Right.
In the script. Nobody wants him around. And there's got to be that vibe as gracious and as welcoming everybody was. And I got to tell you, Michael Fox was a champ. He was a real champ in saying, you know what, try this way, or the joke is this. And I didn't think I was a comedic actor. I wanted to be, Mr. Method. I wanted to be Al Pacino or Bobby De Niro. And I was a member of the Actors Studio, and it was like, well, we need to bleed when we're on stage.
Right.
We have to die.
I'm gonna get my
for
teeth
real.
removed. And yeah.
Well, it's like, remember the story? Did you ever hear the story about Dustin Hoffman was doing Marathon Man?
Laurence Olivier.
Yes.
It's just acting, dear boy. Yes.
It was insane, So to go and do it, I always thought it. And then when it worked, I am my own worst enemy. When something's easy to me, I'm like, well, it was easy. Why am I doing it?
Right.
It's got to be hard. It's got to be difficult. And it was so easy. And it was a great gig. It was a great gig. Great people. And yes, as family members, after a few years, I think we all started to get on each other's nerves in certain degrees, but that happens everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's people you work with. It's like a sequestered jury almost sometimes.
The thing is that I'm going to have a few actors who are going to hate me and want to spit on me.
I get you back.
Which is okay. It's all right. We'll get over it. Having people like Michael, like Gary, like Meredith, like Justine, like Michael Gross, they're all very intelligent. So it helps being around smart people.
They get it and they know what they're doing, and it kind of makes it much more precision and sort of everyone's game gets better, I think, when you're around people who are good.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Whether it's, a group of actors or a football team, baseball team, or I don't know. I've never worked in a lab developing some sort of an antivirus, but I imagine everybody wants to play up to the other guy's level.
I had John Ross Bowie on recently, was on Speechless and a bunch of other stuff. We were talking about our favorite sitcom lines, and his was from your first episode of Family Ties. And it's the one where Nick goes, oh, do you guys eat like this all the time? And then Michael J. Fox goes, you mean with utensils? And he's like, it's just a perfect sitcom joke.
I remember, and there was the thing of like, I ate something like when I was leaving Perturbed, and I ain't sophisticated. I ain't who was the actor?
It's like Sly Stallone or someone like that, right?
Yes, it's like Sly Stallone, but the other guy with the muscles and the dark hair. And
I can't think of the name either, but I know who you're talking about.
But there was a lot of things like that on that show that were just gems. And when you work with somebody and you start working and there's a shorthand, or there's a just a means of communicating that is not verbal. There's a clip that's actually on YouTube, and somebody very lovingly called it the funniest moment from sitcom or whatever. There's a lot of great moments in sitcoms. There are, but I'm flattered that they would say it. And it's when Michael Gross's character's in the hospital. My character comes in to say hi, and there's this beautiful moment where we look at each other. And we just look and we kind of tilt our heads back and forth. You know how dogs do when they don't understand you, and they're like, well, maybe if I twist my head to the side. And I completely forgot about it. Somebody sent me the clip and I totally forgot the episode. That's part of the beauty of working with a team for a long time, because you start to, you ebb, I flow. You go left, I go right, ba-dee, bada-boo. And there's so much, other than this modality where it's verbal. You need to hear if you and I just looked at each other, your audience would get rather bored and tune out.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times in life where we communicate not verbally, with a look, with a gesture. And as you start to pick those up with the other people you're playing with, it's the best. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
So the TV guide here we picked was June 1st to the 7th, 1968. And were you a big TV kid? Were you watching all this stuff? Because you didn't start acting till like college, right?
Correct. Yeah, I loved watching TV when I was a kid. I loved it. It was kind of an escape. And the fact that you picked this in June of 68, I was 10 years old. And I remember I got a tent for my birthday on my 10th birthday, and trying to read the side, and I couldn't figure, it was like T-E-N-T, and I'm like 10T. So I was maybe not the brightest bulb in the Christmas tree at that time. But I'm looking at the TV guide you sent me. Brother, here's my childhood laid out in front of me.
People usually between 8 and 12, that's the sweet spot when like you're old enough to have your own taste, but you're not old enough to leave the house or do anything. So
Right.
It's just like this stuff sticks with you. And, you probably did you ever go into Manhattan or anything as a kid? Or, I mean, that's hours away.
No, didn't, which is literally from Saratoga, it's only 3.5 hours. And you think you would make the trip, but I never flew on a commercial airliner until I moved out to LA. So
wow.
Yeah. And the only trips that we had done up to that point was down to Tennessee to the Smokey Mountains to see my dad's family, which was very intriguing.
Dolly Parton
My
country.
relatives. Love them.
This comes up on the show often when like a lot of the Southern shows. As a Northeasterner, I just had like a visceral reaction to them, like, I don't understand this. Like, it's a whole different world down there. It feels like a different country sometimes. I mean, I'm sure in the 60s especially.
I got to be careful what I say. I don't want to be excommunicated from the family.
No problem. We'll move on. Let's jump in here. Saturday night, June 1st, 1968. What struck your fancy there that night?
Oh, dude, it sucks that we only get to pick one. I mean, look at the lineup. Newlywed Game was always funny and hilarious. Get Smart with, what was her name? Barbara Feld?
Barbara Feldon. Yes, as Agent 99.
Oh, she was Agent 99. Hogan's Heroes, My Three Sons, Mannix, which it was so funny watching Mannix. My brother, who's 5 years older than me, would get pissed off during the opening credits. Because remember, he was running across the Golden Gate Bridge, outrunning a car.
Yeah, as you do.
Right. And my brother, Mr. Real, is like, he can't do that. That's bullshit. But I got to say, Kent, my favorite here on Saturday night, 9:30, Channel 5, Petticoat Junction.
That kickstarted a lot of young boys' puberty, I think. I mean, the town, for Christ's sake, the town's called Hooterville. Like, how overt could they get with that show? And it's a fun kind of dumb show. I'm always surprised when I remember that Green Acres was a spin-off of Petticoat Junction.
Right. Yes. But of course, you and I are not the same age, thank God. But I remember watching Petticoat Junction, specifically the three daughters and the wardrobe they had them in. And it was very interesting how they always seemed to accentuate these girls' breasts on TV.
They know what sells. And also screens were smaller, so they had to get people's attention. And I think it's in the opening credits. Aren't they all like swimming in the water tower? Like that big.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like. Yes. They knew what they were doing with that show. I mean, there's no.
That was better than Gilligan's Island.
Were you a Ginger or a Maryanne?
I was a Ginger Maryanne Enaman.
Okay, yeah.
Either or. They were both very attractive.
Yeah.
You know?
I thought you were going to throw me for a curveball and be like, Mrs. Howell. She had a great pension. Probably had a lot of. She's very reliable.
I think it was more so. Which one was the va 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 voom chick, and which one was the down home?
That's Ginger. So it was Tina Louise was Ginger. Maryanne was Dawn Wells.
I was more of a Maryanne.
She got arrested a couple years ago she was like growing pot. She had like a pot farm.
Did she?
Yeah. It's like 2 or 3 years ago. People were like, Maryanne has a pot farm. Somewhere
she
in the desert.
Such a nice girl. What happened to her?
Yeah.
My goodness gracious. I'm picking Maryanne because I want somebody who's, going to be a good wife and a good mother to my children. And here she is out smoking that wacky weed.
Yeah. She's remaking Breaking Bad somehow. There's a movie, some ex-sitcom actor and a middle-aged sitcom actress who's now like a huge drug dealer in like Palm Springs or something. I'd watch that.
I think we've seen that in real life a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just do a reality show. Was there anyone that you used to watch on TV when you were a kid that you worked with later that was kind of intimidating, or you were like, this is so weird?
Oh, dude. Meeting other actors and being intimidated by them was not usually in my lexicon, because I got out of acting school, and then it was just, to me, it was like, well, it's sort of like you go to school to study to be an engineer, or you go to school to study to be whatever, a coder, then you just go get a job doing it. To me, it was all sort of, that was the factory. So it didn't really hit me. Who really actually blew me away was when I was at the Actors Studio in New York and meeting Elia Kazan and Al Pacino. That I was like stepping on my tongue. But people that I worked with, Raymond Burr, very interesting. I did a bunch of Perry Masons, and he was such a sweet guy, just a normal guy. The first time I had worked with him, the week before or the 2 weeks before, he wasn't at the set. Everything was fun and frilly, and I love getting along with the crew. I want to make sure that I'm helping the crew, whereas if I would have ADs say, or directors, no, you don't have to do that. I know I don't have to, but I want to help them, because then they'll feel like they're part, we're all pulling here together. So me and the crew were getting along really well. And the first day that we're going to shoot with Raymond, the day before, the AD comes to me and the second AD, and they're like, Raymond's here tomorrow. Raymond's here. Don't be late. You can't, don't be late. I said, you guys, you picked me up at the hotel. I'm only going to be late if you guys are late. So I'm on time the next morning, making sure I don't want to make Mr. Burr wait. And going to my dressing room. There's the outfit to put on, going to makeup, bada boom, bada bing. I'm ready. I'm sitting, waiting. Finally, the AD comes, goes, hey, we're ready for you on set, Mr. Valentine. You know, all the walkie-talkie crap. And as I'm walking to the set, the wardrober comes up and goes, oh my God, that's the wrong clothes. You've got the wrong outfit on. Why did you put that outfit on? I said, well, it was either this or be naked. It was the only one in my room.
It's one choice.
Whatever you want, I'll do. And they're like, oh God, call the set, tell him he's going to be late. Tell him he's got to, you know, so maybe 4 or 5 minutes to change in the right clothes. And I walk on the set and it's my character's domicile, which is a loft.
It's that classic 80s giant loft that everybody has, even though they have like no job.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the people on Friends, how the hell they could afford that apartment in New York City with those jobs are beyond me, but whatever. So I walk on the set and usually the crew that's laughing and very jovial, they're all over topped off into the corner. And then over there in a little group is Raymond Burr and the director and the AD and the camera operator. And they're setting the shot up. And I get halfway in the room and I stop and I look and the AD's like, come on. And I'm like, the hell is this? The old fat guy shows up and you all stand over in the corner like a bunch of scorned schoolboys. I'm here and I don't get any of that respect. Y'all just chatter away. And everybody got quiet. And Raymond Burr in his 5'9", 280-pound physique turns and he looks at me, young man, when you're as old as I am and as fat as I am, maybe then you'll get some respect. The crew starts laughing, everybody. So that was wonderful. Raymond was a sweetheart.
So used to everyone walking on eggshells around them that when someone just treats them like a coworker, they're like, oh, all right.
Yeah. And we had fun. We had fun. He was a good guy, really good guy. I believe he owned the show or he owned the rights, kind of like Angela Lansbury owning the rights to Murder, She Wrote. And they treated people that came as their guest stars. They treated you very nicely, very nicely. They took very good care of you financially. And they took very good care of making sure you had everything was top notch, first class. I won't say the shows that I've gone on where they were not.
Right.
And usually it was the lead actor on those shows that had such an inflated ego. It was just always tense on the set. It was not fun at all.
Yeah.
Another guy who was rather kind of interesting and rather disappointing to work with was Mayberry RFD.
Andy Griffith.
Andy Griffith. He was very standoffish. It was very, very just odd. It was very uncomfortable. And I'm sitting there as a young actor going, well, what did I do? How did I fuck up? Everybody's like, no, don't worry. It's just the way he is. He's a little wacky. This
was because you did was it Diagnosis Murder? Not Diagnosis Murder.
What was
the Murder Show?
What did you do? Yeah. Murder Show. Well, yeah, where he played Matlock. There we go. Matlock. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, a guy like that was like his 4th show or something. I'm sure he's just like, I imagine some actors at that point, they're like Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon. They're like 3 days before retirement. And it was like, I gotta do this shit again. Like they kind of have. Like,
exactly. Yeah. What are my lines?
Yeah. Still plugging through here.
And it was funny on that show, I played some motorcycle hoodlum. So they had me in tight leather pants. I truly felt for a moment what it must be like to be a woman with large breasts and have people only stare at your breast. Because the first day I put on these red motorcycle pants and I go to come out of my trailer and the wardrober's standing out there knocking on and I'm up 3 steps. So her head is right at my groin level and she's doing nothing but staring at my groin. I'm like, come on, will you look me in the eyes up, eyes up. Don't stare at the penis, please. Eyes up.
That's the karma that you get for your Petticoat Junction viewing. That was the universe payback for that. But worth it. All worth it, I'm sure.
I mean, nothing against tight pants, but I don't know how fellas that wear tight pants do that.
You can't do anything in them. It's like...
It hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt.
It's got to be distracting.
When you get that middle seam that goes underneath you there, and that kind of gets caught the wrong way, and the boys get squished together.
We were talking before about My Demon Lover, and you had to do all the like heavy makeup. It's got to be a similar thing where like that's like being in leather pants from head to toe.
Oh, that was crazy. I don't know if your listeners have seen it, but it was a character that became a fat Buddha man, He was a
Pizzatski.
A Pizzatski, yes. He
was cursed that anytime he got horny, he literally, I imagine that movie, someone was like, look, somebody's horny, and then they grow horns. Huh? And then they're like,
what a great idea. Oh my God. Genius.
Which is basically the movie. But you have like 6 or 7 different transformations to like bizarre things.
Well, it was like one time I was an old Jewish lady. Another time I was a lion or a tiger or something, and the fat Buddha man when I turned into the Pizzatski monster. And that literally went from my lower abdomen up my body, over my head, and down my back. It took about, I think, 12 to 13 hours just to get in the makeup. And it was also on my hands. So the thing was, when I had to urinate, I couldn't get my pants unzipped. I couldn't get my penis out of my underwear. So I had to have a makeup guy with me which is very,
I don't know who that's worse for, him or you.
And then, please excuse me, I don't mean to be, but everybody's got their own way of shaking their penis when they're done urinating.
Yeah.
And be like, no, dude, you got a little, okay, now, a little more vigorous. All right, good.
It's everybody's signature move. It's like a fingerprint. No two people do it the same. But when you were making that movie, were you like, this is weird and I don't know what this is going to come out like? Or were you just like, this is just another gig?
Ken, I was so naive. I came out from New York doing theater all the time. And if you did a play and it didn't work, it didn't really matter. There was it's not like the whole world knew about it and you couldn't get hired again. I thought it was just like theater. And okay, I get to play all these other characters and we're exploring and figuring it out and it should be fun. I had no idea. One, I think in looking back career-wise, it would have been much more astute of me to take a small role in a film that was carried by somebody else that was the guy or the gal, the dude or the dudette. So I had no awareness of that. Or really, if a film fails or it succeeds, a lot of times they'll say, oh, Ken Reed was in that, made gazillions of dollars because you got Kenny Reed, Yeah. And then the other film, it failed. Valentine.
Yeah.
Valentine fucked up. That's the reason it failed. And it was a quick lesson in when does the film come out? What is its competition? What sort of media campaign is there? Literally, what is the title? What's the music that people can associate with it? There were so many variables at play that it was a good lesson for me to learn.
Was that at the same time as you were doing Nick on Family Ties, right? It was sort of simultaneous?
Yeah, right after the first year on Family Ties. And I did that on my summer off. And it was crazy. I mean, there were some days that were 30, 32-hour days.
Oof. Couldn't be more different from Family Ties either, obviously in content, but just in the way that the working method, sort of the,
Oh, yeah. And I used to have actors that would... that we would see it like the upfronts and doing these, these network promotional things. And they'd be bitching about, I can't believe I got to do this show another year. And I'm like, bitch, shut the fuck up. Yeah. You nuts? You put on clothes and pretend you're somebody else and you get paid more in a week than most people make in a year.
Yeah.
What's the problem? You want to go do Moliere or Odette or Congreve or Wickley? Go back to New York, go to Chicago, do theater. You want to do meaningful shit. They're not going to pay this.
Right.
You won't have that fancy house in Brentwood, but you'll feel like you're doing something right, something justified. A sitcom is a dream gig. You show up at like 10 in the morning. You're out of there by 6 in the evening, 7 in the evening. You're home in your own home, in your own bed. On a film, you're off somewhere and you start in the beginning of the week shooting days, and by the end of the week, your Friday wraps up Saturday at 7 a.m. So it's kind of crazy, but that's why you get paid a lot of money. So.
Yeah. And you're not shooting in order either. So like, at least with a sitcom, it's more like a play in that like you can kind of enjoy the story as a participant. In the movie, you're like, I honestly have no idea what this is going to come together like what is happening.
No, and it was a great exercise too. You know, like you and I are shooting this scene right here. Here's Ken and Scott talking in Ken's office. But before this, the scene is you and I were at a restaurant. We're walking down the street and I see whatever, my father I haven't seen for 40 years. And to carry that from there into here, into this environment is truly an exercise in acting. And that's when you watch other actors and see how well, you know, their continuity and their flow of their performance. Some have it, a lot don't.
It's hard. If you have it, you can hone it, but it's hard to sort of teach somebody that. It's sort of a really bizarre thing.
It is. And you know, it's funny too, the school I went to, maybe they won't be happy me saying this, but they don't teach you that in school. They don't. And I know we had learned primarily for theater, but if you're teaching actors to go out and make a living wage and they're going to do television or film, you got to teach them little things like this and other stuff like, I'm going to pick this mug up and I'm going to drink right here. Now, when we switch around to the other angle and it's over your shoulder, I damn well better do that right there. And yes, you've got a script supervisor on set who says, no, Scott, you picked up and you put the mug to your, when you said virtuous, that's when you then put it up to your, and as an actor, I think it's your responsibility to make all those little pieces flow seamlessly. Because the moment you pull the audience out of, and the audience goes, oh, look, oh my God, his shirt. He's only got one button buttoned he just walked in from the other room and he's got two buttons buttoned. You know what I mean? And they're just little things that pull you out of the suspension of belief of the fictitious. Look, there's these actors, great guys that I've worked with that, you know, the kind that do nothing on screen. They do nothing. They're just very quiet. They say and we can sit and name names, and I don't want to.
Unnecessary. We all know.
We know who they are, but they have made a career out of being nothing but just monotone, monochromatic. And to me, it's kind of easier because, okay, I'm just being a quiet log in every scene. I have no emotion. Right. There's no inflection in my voice. There's no change in my facial expression. But meanwhile, these people have turned careers into just being a blank canvas.
Yeah, and everything sort of happens around them. It's
yes.
A reaction. Weirdly, on Sunday, I don't know if you saw it, but huge on the page, there's a big focus on the movie The Actor, starring Alec Guinness.
Oh my God. Oh my God, yes. Uh-huh.
It's a special about acting. As far as I can tell, Alec Guinness is narrating a weird thing about acting. It's only an hour. It's a very strange thing to have. It's sort of a documentary.
Especially in the 60s.
On a major network, you have an hour-long documentary about English theater.
But it was brought to you in color by B.F. Goodrich.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows tires mean color.
Now wait, let's see. What was on Sunday night? Oh, look. The GE College Bowl in June.
That's football?
Oh, Sunday night. Come on. You remember Sunday night, right? Sunday night. What was everybody doing on Sunday night?
It was either Wonderful World of Disney or Ed Sullivan, I imagine.
Or Ed Sullivan. Or there was Flipper.
Oh, yeah. One of the few shows shot in Florida.
Flipper, which led into Wild Kingdom.
Yes, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Loved Wild Kingdom. And then at 8 o'clock, come on, we got one of the best TV dramas, FBI.
With Ed Asner and Martin Sheen.
Oh, my God. Look at that. Yeah. Oh, my God. Guest actors. Yeah. Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah, that show is great. And for some reason, I never hear anyone talk about it. It didn't really get rerun, I don't think. It's not as beloved as other sort of cop shows of that era for whatever reason, but is a cool show.
Didn't they? Oh, remember Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And who was the black dude on the show? What was his name?
Oh,
because his kid is somebody famous. I'd worked with him, and his sister does a lot of voiceover work. Phil Morris.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
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 Phil Morris. And his sister, what is her name? Like Nadine, Naomi or something. She's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart. He's a great guy. Very nice guy.
You did, to jump around, you did a bunch of voiceover yourself. You were in a bunch of the DC cartoons and a bunch of stuff.
Dude. Again, kick me in the ass. What's wrong with me? Smack me. It's another thing that my agents got me into. And I did a bunch of, Batman and Superman, Phantom 2040, Mark Hamill, Carrie Snodgrass, Margot Kidder, Leah Remini, Pam Segal, who's now Pam Alden, Deborah Harry, Paul Williams. It was that walking in and being in, I don't know if your listeners know how that's done. It's sort of like you're in the sound booth with anywhere from 3 to 12 other actors. And it felt kind of like we were doing an old radio show. It was kind of cool. And what was funny is you had the whole crew in the sound booth, the producers, the writer, the director. And at times, if they gave you direction and you didn't like it, it'd be, what? I'm sorry. I think your mic is broke. Let's just keep going. Let's move on.
Time is money. You gotta go. Did Andrea Romano, did she do Phantom as well?
Yes. She's great.
I've had her on the show. She's unbelievably talented. Just
unbelievable. And do you know the very talented voice actors? You know Kath Soucie?
Yes.
And Rob Paulsen?
Rob Paulsen's amazing. Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's a stud. He's a stud.
I mean, guys like that and like Billy West, who's a buddy as well, they have that old school. Tara Strong's another one where they can do like 40 voices and have 5 conversations as 5 different characters live with themselves. Like it's a whole different skill set. It's that Mel Blanc thing.
Well, there was a thing with a couple of the producers at one point. Rob Paulsen stood up for Scotty Valentine like I was his child. You've met Rob.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Very sweet guy. Very sweet. And somebody did something to me and I was like, and Rob was like, what the fuck? You're a fucking asshole. I was like, whoa, wow, cool.
Yeah.
You go.
Especially those voiceover people, like they're a tight knit circle. Like
and I felt like working with them, there's a lot of times on a set where you go in. There was a movie I did with John Mahoney. Remember John Mahoney played the dad on Frasier?
Say Anything.
He's a theater actor from Chicago, from Steppenwolf. Eve Gordon, Juilliard graduate, Steppenwolf. And I was like the lead. I was the piece of meat that helped got the picture made. And to walk on the set and go, Jesus, these people are much more talented than I am. And they're literally there was some of that where it was like, I'm the name, I'm the pretty face. With these guys, and then working with people like Kath and Rob Paulsen, again, I felt very appreciative to be in the same room on the same show with these extremely talented people. I felt very lucky.
But you felt like you should be there, right? Like you're like, I can do this.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. But it was, because there's some other shows you work on, and I'm not going to say names, where people, because they were the guy or the gal and they thought they were the prettiest whatever. It's like, dude, you know what? You put on clothes and pretend you're somebody else. That's your job. Take your fucking ego and park it and quit being an asshole. All right.
Was anyone else in your family in the arts, or is it like a pretty working class kind of background?
No, I'm the black sheep.
It makes sense. Like if your background is people who work,
Yeah.
Labor jobs, or, they're plumbers or things like that. That when you go out there and hearing someone complain about it is like, you're pretending, man. Like someone's getting you lunch.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, dude, you showed up 2 hours late. You smelled like a fucking distillery.
Yeah.
We're burning through about $10,000 an hour to have 50 people wait for you because you're hungover. And you have the audacity to now act like an asshole?
Yeah.
No, not happening.
It's
not gonna.
It's shocking how it's unusual to not be that. Some people, but those people they burn out quick. I think once they're not bankable, people are fast at getting rid of them.
Done. Yeah. Oh yeah, because I've produced for years, and when we are casting a movie, and it's a choice between Freddie Freihofer and Fred Bickelhoff or whomever. and you call up, and I'd call up you and say, Ken, you worked with Freddie Freihofer. How was he? And you're like, oh, Scott. Da, da, da. Yeah. And you're like, okay, forget it. I'm going with, unless Freddie Freihofer is so god awful powerful and he's going to guarantee a return either, through home entertainment or box office, why deal with the bullshit?
Yeah. It's a liability too. Like you're investing a bunch of money and one person can sink the whole ship so it's a balance of like, is the name worth the risk of them taking us all down with them? It's a weird...
we had one movie. There was this actress who was, I hate teasing and not naming names.
It's all right.
But, she was having a fling with an extremely popular actor who I'm kind of friends with. And we're on the set and we're renting a store, which was very expensive for this movie. And you've got about 50 to 75 crew members there. And it's like, where is she? Where the fuck? And then you call up and go, hey, Bobby, is Mama, and you know where she is? Yeah, she's right here in bed next to me. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, we were up all night doing blow, drinking whiskey. And then you got to send a PA over and, dress her up, prop her up and all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird life that people are just like, any other job, you would be fired immediately.
Yes. Immediately. Yeah.
Can't make it into the office today.
Production deals that I had as a producer in certain places one place I left because I'm seeing the executives come back and I'm going, I know they just went to lunch and they were getting drunk and doing blow.
Yeah.
And you expect to make money with them and feed your children and keep a roof over your head?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I worked in television sales for a while, in ad sales, not as a salesperson. I was a sales assistant at a local affiliate. Yeah, it was the same thing. Like it would be, the sales manager would come back from lunch and be just hammered and then hand me his receipts to expense all this booze they just drank.
Really?
And it would get expensed because they were selling, but I'm like, how is this a job? Like, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Why did you consciously want to move into producing instead of acting? Or were you just like, it's time to start doing that? Or was that something of interest always?
There was a combination of events. I had a business manager that stole close to $1 million from me. Like net $1 million after taxes, after commissions, and literally went in a day from going, where do we want to go today? Want to go to the Bahamas? Do we want to go to Barbados? And then the next day it was like, we can't buy milk. Ugh. We can't buy fucking bread. We can't. And then calling up people and going, dude, I'm broke. Can you send me money? Because my fucking business manager, which the guy was eventually caught, went to jail. And I found myself calling my agent and going, get me a meeting for anything. I gotta pay my mortgage. I gotta buy groceries. I don't care what it is. And I started doing projects that I never would have done had I had money sitting in the bank. Never. And I'm doing them. And then, it's like this, you're like a rat on a wheel. And then I started reading scripts that were just horrible.
Yeah.
And you know how we all have those aha moments in life? And mine was, I went to an audition over at Paramount, and my agent had a bag to get me to see the assistant to the assistant to the assistant casting director. Now, mind you, at the risk of sounding egotistical, and I never want to sound that way, I had a pilot that wasn't picked up because of a fight between Gary Goldberg and Brandon Tartikoff, and I got fucked. But when they aired that pilot in the summer, is like summer fodder.
Burn it off, yeah.
45 million people watched.
Yeah.
So that's something.
It was a huge deal. I mean, I remember when people were shocked that, back then too, people weren't as aware of the business side of things as everybody kind of is now, but people were excited about that spinoff. And then they were like, where is it? Where is it? And then it got, burned off in the summer and like people were confused.
Yeah. Well, Gary Goldberg and Brandon Tartikoff got into a fight, a literal fight, pushing and shoving each other. And it was like, you can't have my show. Well, you can. I don't want your show. Well, fuck you. And the show was that show. But anyway, so to go through that and then to go for a meeting The script was horrible. I walk in the room. Everybody in the room is younger than me, and they had no credits. I didn't know what their ability was. I didn't know what their talents were. All I wanted was to make money to feed my kids and pay my mortgage. And I had no respect for these people. And I literally got done with the meeting, walked out, and I said, you got to stop. You got to take a break. You can't do this anymore. You're too fucking desperate. You come off as desperate. And I'm like, you're better than this. So I decided to start producing, and producing was good. And I thought I would be somewhat immune to the political and egotistical whims, like the Gary and Brandon fight. And that's not the only story. There was shit with Aaron Spelling.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
He fucking hated me. I went to audition. I hated 90210. Hated it. It was not my cup of tea. You know, God love the people that were on it. And maybe they made a nice career out of it, but it just seemed like shit. There was a part that they were adding to the show, and I had to fight to get a goddamn audition, and wound up auditioning for like the assistant to the assistant to the assistant caster, and then winding up in the room, you know, the room where there's the studio people, the production people, the network people, and you're in some fucking little room, and it's you and one other guy. And you got 30 people sitting there, and they want to see God. They just want genius.
Yeah.
You know? I do it. I get done. The producer follows me out in the hall, shakes, can't leave my hand go. It's like, you're the guy. You're the man. You're the one. You got this. And I go home thinking, yay, I've got another regular gig. I can feed my kids and pay my mortgage. Day goes by, another day. I call my manager, going, what the fuck? What's going on? Well, we haven't heard anything. I said, what do you mean? The guy who's the showrunner is your client. Call him up. What the fuck? He told me I got the job.
Yeah.
And the guy who's the showrunner told my manager, said, look, it's not going to happen. It won't happen. Aaron's not going to approve him. Now, I'd met Aaron Spelling twice at movie premieres, and it was like, hi, Mr. Spelling, nice to meet you, you know. And so I tell my manager, I said, I want you to call Spelling and find out what the fuck, why does he not like me? What the fuck is, right. He goes, oh, I can't do that. I said, Alan, you're worried about your other clients and what's going to happen for them or not them. I'm your only client right now. You've been at my house. You played with my kids. You know my wife. I need you to back me on this. Just find out why. And he called and got Spelling on the phone, not verbatim, but the general gist of the conversation was, I will never hire Mr. Valentine. And if you continue with this line of questioning, I'll never hire any client from your firm. So my manager calls me and like, did you shit on his shoes? Did you like tell him his daughter's ugly? Did you like kick his dog or something? And I'm like, I met the guy twice. I mean, literally, you've been to those things. When you're at a thing, you can't talk. And there's lots of, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. You know, I don't know. So I was literally, I thought producing would make me somewhat immune to those whims, that egotistical stuff. Mm-hmm. I was wrong.
Yeah. Well,
I was stupid again.
But sometimes you have to find out for yourself. It's a crazy world where no matter how good of a job you do and how hard you work, ultimately your fate is not in your hands, and it is on the whim of somebody. And it could be anything. They could be like, I don't like he's an inch shorter than I wanted, or whatever it is.
Crazy shit.
Yeah,
crazy. Well, look. When we were auditioning actresses for The Art of Being Nick, and the girl to play my sister, not the character Julie Louis-Dreyfus played, but the girl to play that role, Christine Lottie came in an audition, who eventually won an Academy Award. There was a couple of other name actresses who came in. And one actress, very talented theater actor, came in with a platter of Italian cold cuts and Italian hors d'oeuvres for the network audition, right? And she had another book, and she's like, look, I got my how to be an Italian, right? And I thought, wow, that was really cool of her. She went the extra mile. I mean, she left the room, and everybody, all the executives started laughing at her and going, how desperate, what a schmo. Can you believe she'd do tricks like that? And I'm thinking, no, she's kind of shown that she really wants the part. She dressed the part. She invested time to do this. This is how committed she is. Why the fuck are you laughing at her? And I just didn't understand it. So anyway, producing, it was just an exercise in futility. And the last deal I had was at Madonna's company, Maverick. And I went there. I had a film with Tim Allen and Hilary Duff attached. I had another film with Damon Wayans and Daryl Hannah attached, who were all pretty bankable at the time. And they did nothing but fuck around with it, fuck around. And finally, that day when I saw them come back from lunch, it was like looking at the dust cloud from Pigpen.
Yeah.
And I thought, Scott, you're an idiot. If you think you can feed your family this way, working with people, that's how they spend their lunch, you're an idiot. And literally handed in my letter, see you later, and rented an office from Lionsgate, because the guy who's the head of TV at Lionsgate is still a buddy. It was a buddy then. And I'm like, Beggsy, you got an office I can rent? I'm my friend. My friend, as luck would have it, you can have an office. Really? Yes, we just moved into a new building. You can have my office. So they gave me a sweetheart deal. And then I decided to become an investment banker. And it's funny, there have been things on the internet where people have said I'm dead. I've gone into rehab.
Which you deny, you're not dead.
No, I am dead. This is just a hologram that you're seeing and hearing.
I'm a medium.
And other just stupid, salacious things, you know. And then in our business, we work with a lot of folks in the middle of the country. A lot of folks that I think are rightly pissed off at the coastal, New York, LA, DC, LA, because like you guys don't pay attention to us. And working with people that do real jobs, that swing a hammer, that swing an axe, that, you know, put in hard time. And it's very hard work. It's not, you know, oh, you're late, Mr. Reed. And, you know, would you like a breakfast burrito, or can I give you some French toast? And when you're ready, we're ready for your makeup and your wardrobe's in your trailer.
And I'm like, okay. God damn it, a breakfast burrito. I want a breakfast sandwich. Who are you? You're fired.
Exactly. So I've been very fortunate. The woman who's my partner is just a wonderful person. We've worked with some truly wonderful people, but I would like to say in defense of Hollywood, there are just as many assholes and idiots in the energy industry, in the real estate industry, in the pharmaceutical industry as there are in Hollywood. It's just Hollywood gets magnified because there's cameras all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Does it feel like a different person? Do you go back and watch the stuff that you did ever, or is it strange?
Totally different? Totally. Look, first off, the 80s were the 80s. So everybody was doing cocaine. And if you weren't doing cocaine, you were lying.
You were selling it.
Exactly. Or you were growing it, or you were processing it. And I did more coke in New York than I did in LA. And then when I had kids, it was like, dude, you can't do this shit anymore. You got to stop. Yeah, you got to man up here. But a large part of going into acting, I loved acting. I loved the adulation. But also it was getting that approval. And eventually you realize as you get older that, you know, these thousands or millions of people, whoever is watching you, they don't care about you. They care about the character, but they don't care about you. So it was a good process of weeding out folks that really didn't give a damn. You know, look, I used to have parties at my house and there would be 30, 40, 50 people. They just sort of turned up. When the money dried up after the business manager ripped me off, and when we didn't have the big fancy schmancy house, not so many people, not so many friends, you know?
Yeah.
So
if you can't do something for me, I'm not interested kind of people. And it's like,
exactly. Yeah. In my life now, look, I've got 4 beautiful boys. They're 21 to 34. I got a beautiful gal named Jennifer Malchow that I want to change that name Malchow to Valentine, who lives back in Saratoga Springs. I'm head over heels in love with her. And what else do I need? I got, you know, we got a couple of companies working up in Oklahoma. We've got another company down in South Carolina working, and life is good.
Yeah.
You know,
and you have this sort of first act that most people wouldn't understand or get to have experienced, but it's still.
Ken, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I mean, from being run over by a truck and killed and coming back, and then being paralyzed from the waist down and told you'll never walk, never have children. And I think you've seen me walk once or twice.
Yeah. I haven't seen you have children, but I believe you.
I tell you, that was a hell of a thing getting them out of there.
Yeah.
Passing them through that urethra was tough.
But you did it.
Yeah. I'm guessing you're probably, about 20 years younger than me?
Yeah, I just turned 40.
Okay, mazel tov.
Thank you.
There's a lot of guys in between your age and my age, and women that get to be about 50, 55, and they go, what the fuck? What am I doing in my life? They're the midlife crises. I've lived a life, man. I've lived a life. I've been all over Asia. I've been all over Southeast Asia. I've been all over Europe. I've been all over North America. I haven't been to Africa or South America. I would like to. I've jumped out of planes. I've jumped out of helicopters. I've stood on the edge of a volcano and saw this tribe toss it a sacrificial
person.
Yeah, over in Vanuatu. I'm very fortunate, very happy. I say I wouldn't change a thing. There's a couple things I would change. Maybe I wouldn't do the truck thing again, and maybe eliminate the motherfucker that stole all the money from us, but that's life.
Maybe have him do the truck thing.
Yes. There's a movie. You're a genius.
Well, I'm very good at revenge. It's what we do in Boston. Spite is our morning coffee here. It's how we get up.
Oh, God.
It's a cold environment.
Oh, you know who the actor was? Charles Bronson.
Oh, yes. Charles Bronson. Yeah.
Yes. Charles Bronson. Yeah, that's right.
No, Charles Bronson of Death Wish fame. Is there something you worked on that is like, if someone asked you, someone you met in your current life and your current you was like, what was your acting like? What I never saw anything you did. What kind of stuff would you do? What would you tell them to watch? Or what would you be like, oh, well, watch this thing? Or you're most proud of, or you think represents
Damn you, Reed.
Sorry.
Damn you. And I like you too. I don't know if we could say it's one thing. I'm very proud of my body of work. Family Ties obviously was extremely successful, not because of me, but because of people like Gary Goldberg, Michael Fox, great writers, phenomenal writers that have gone on to showrun other shows. Look, the guy who showran the show I did with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Bruce Helford, he went on, he showran Charlie Sheen's show, Drew Carey's show. But to do that was wonderful. But then also there was a movie I did with Melissa Gilbert. It was a movie of the week, and I played this nasty, ugly rapist. And to be able to have that, the converse, the antithesis of the sweet, nice guy and being the predatory asshole. There was a movie I did based on the San Francisco earthquake in '89. The filmmakers took 4 different heroes, and I played a gentleman who was a firefighter that rescued a woman from a building that had collapsed from 5 stories down to 1 story. And I think Rue McClanahan, the gal from Golden Girl, I saved her. But that was, to watch the work, I think it was very commendable. It was very real. It was very, and there's some other smaller films I did that as an actor, you watch and you go, okay, I believe me. I don't feel like I'm watching a person acting. I'm watching somebody going through a very personal experience. So it wouldn't be one single element, and it's funny when I meet other folks that do realize without this gray hair that I am the guy from the 80s with the big hair and the chandelier earring. And a lot of folks will say, my God, you don't talk anything like him. And you're not dumb. You can actually conjugate verbs.
It's acting, dear boy.
It's good because in a way don't be insulted by it. Okay, I convinced them that I was actually that person. And that's a good thing. And it's a great life. Where else can you show up 2 hours late, hungover, and they greet you with, would you like a breakfast burrito or French toast?
Yeah.
Sincerely. And that's why any actor I ever see that's working and they bitch and moan, it's like, shut the fuck up. Would you like to dig ditches? One of the companies that we're part owners in, it's a utility company. They hang high-powered electric cable from pole to pole to pole to pole. Do you want to be that guy? Do you want to get, do you want to be handling 220, 440 voltage?
Like 1968, when we're looking at this, a lot of the actors in these things too, they lived lives before they were actors. So it fits in where, like, if you look at a guy like Eddie Albert, who, from Green Acres, the guy was a war hero. He saved an entire ship full of people, and he brings that to the roles he does. And sometimes now you have somebody who literally all they've ever done is act. They've never had a job, like a ditch digger job. And so they have no perspective.
You say that, You know the guy from Monty Python's Flying Circus. You know he was a spook?
I don't know. I interviewed him this year.
Did you?
Yeah, I was with him for like 3 hours, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Just crazy stories.
Wow. Wow. But I think it was him. One of the guys from Monty Python was a spy for the British government. What's her name? The cloak. We take it. We put
Julia
it.
Child. Yeah, she was a spy in World War II.
Yes. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's just, to meet people. Look, you remember the movie Killing Fields? The guy who was the actual guy in the film, who the film was about, came to America, and I met him. And he came and visited us on the set. And it was just, he was like, such an honor. So I said, dude, no. Yeah. You're the honor. You're the fucking hero. You're the rock star. And then, do you know how he died?
No.
Somebody held him up in his driveway to steal his fucking watch and shot him and killed him.
Oh my God, that's awful.
He goes through all that shit in Cambodia and has these crazy young people that seize power and are killing anybody with an IQ over 50. And he dies because some asshole here wants to steal his fucking watch.
Welcome to America. That's like Yeah,
America.
It's crazy.
Yep.
I mean, like Christopher Lee, the British actor who's in Lord of the Rings and played Dracula and all these. He's Man with the Golden Gun in James Bond.
Right.
He was also a spy for Britain, and there's a story that a director was telling where he was in a movie and someone got stabbed or something, and Christopher Lee was like, "That's not what people do when they get stabbed." He was like, what? He's like, they do this and this if somebody's... And the director was like, okay. He's just like, I'm not going to ask why you know that, but all right, we'll change it up. So
that's another thing. Doing movies where, inevitably you wind up doing those bad independent films where the guy gets stuck up with the gun and the guy who's got the gun to his face is all... I'm like, dude... Have you ever been held up by a gun? I've been held up at gunpoint 3 times. You become very humble and you see nothing but the ground. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't act all fucking cocky and shit. And I know you're supposed to be the badass in the movie, but could you maybe kind of work your way into it? Because what you're doing is nothing like reality.
But I wonder if that's what people want, the viewer, because they know that in reality they would be looking down, and it's sort of that rewriting how they'd like to be.
You have a very valid point. They wanted to be, look, there's a guy, I don't agree with his politics, Clint Eastwood. I thought what he did with regard to President Obama was fucking ludicrous.
Empty chair.
It's so stupid. I mean, how old are you? Really?
Yeah. Really?
But he made a phenomenal career of being that rogue badass. I'd be, make my day. And the funny thing is people go, I think a big mistake I made in my career, if you look at what Clint Eastwood did in the spaghetti westerns, the character he played, he's still doing that same character 30, 40, 50 years later.
Yeah.
Even in the stuff that he directs, it's still that roguish, gruff hero.
The haunted by his past.
All that. And when I got done doing Nick, I so wanted to go, I can act. I can be a doctor. I can be an architect. And I went so far away from what the essence was of that character. I believe my audience, a certain portion of it, felt alienated. And they're like, well, wait a second. I like the dumb guy in the motorcycle. I don't want the guy in the suit and tie that conjugate verbs.
It's the brand part of being a celebrity that is counterintuitive to being an actor in a lot of ways.
Wouldn't you find that boring?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I look at guys, we could sit here and name guys that have phenomenal careers. Tom Cruise, Bruce Willis, and they're playing the same character time and time and time. It's that brand. That's what people want to see.
As a kid, did you have an actor that you loved, that you went and saw anything they did for that brand?
No.
Oh, wow.
No. Nope. I loved movies that were very impressionable. Remember Bridge on the River Kwai?
Yeah.
That was very impressionable. Then remember, what is it? They Shoot Horses?
Yeah, the dance.
Yes. And then to go from that and then, which I wasn't a kid, but still young, to see Serpico. And I liked because they made me think I wasn't watching a movie. Right. They made me think that I was actually watching. Now, if we had watched Bridge on the River Kwai now, it would look very, staged and very actory. But it still felt real. I wanted to, when I was doing theater in New York, and I was doing Congreve and Wycliffe and Odette and O'Neill, the thing that turned me on, especially doing somebody like O'Neill or Odette, was their writings were reflections of our society. And the what's the word I'm looking for?
It's an allegory or a parable or that sort of.
Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, that's good. And I felt at some point when the light went on for me, I was like, oh my God, he's holding a mirror up to society and going, look at us. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do plays and go, I'm going to hold up a mirror to society, and we're going to be better people as a result. I'm going to do Death of a Salesman, and I'm going to do, Long Day's Journey into Night. And we'll be better people as a result of seeing a reflection of what's bad. And that'll make us want to be better. Well, I was dumb. I was wrong.
It's funny. I think it's a Picasso quote, and I always say it, but I never attribute it correctly. But he said that art is a lie that tells the truth. And it's one of my favorite quotes. And it applies to everything in a lot of ways. And it could be those plays, but it could also be, I always say a show like The Twilight Zone made us all better people. And when you have 2 or 3 generations removed that don't have a Twilight Zone, where they don't have the monsters are on Maple Street to go, oh, maybe I shouldn't be an asshole. You end up in a bad place. And so there is certainly a need for that. It's not all McHale's Navy, but it's still, it's hard to find those things, and it gets harder as we go on, I think.
And then McHale's Navy. And also, look, come on. I grew up to a sitcom that was based in a concentration camp or a war camp, Hogan's Heroes. How could you they made Nazis funny, and we all knew it was pretend. Even as a little kid, I knew this wasn't real. I knew McHale's Navy wasn't real, and it was nice to have that escape. But then other movies, I wanted to see shit that was just, look, a lot of folks have made a lot of money and have brought an extremely bountiful supply of creativity to like the Avengers and Fantastic Four, and I call them spandex movies. I never wanted to do a spandex movie. Now, if you're a guy whose career is kind of faltering and they say, hey, you want to play the lead? And all of a sudden now you go from, you can't get a job in an independent film and they're paying you $20 million to wear spandex and act cool. You're going to fucking love it. Come on.
Oh, yeah. I always say that they're like an amusement park ride. They're like an amusement park experience instead of an emotional experience. So it's a roller coaster and not, I just feel like I was moved, philosophically or emotionally. It's more just like, I feel like I was physically moved.
It's funny, remember when, what was that movie about Twister with Helen Hunt?
Oh, yeah.
I took my sons to see that when it came out. And this is, Ken, this is a testament to what geniuses my sons are. Totally objective opinion here. We're sitting watching the movie, and my son Shaler, who is now 32 and has a master's degree in public health, he's sitting next to me, and he's about, I don't know, what year did it come out? Do you remember?
95, I want to say.
Okay, so Shay's about
14. Okay, yeah.
He's about 8. Remember the movie's going on, and it's Twister after Twister after Twister. And there was no plot. There was no story. It was just, we're going to shoot the Twister, and we better hightail it out before we get caught up in the centrifugal force. And Shaler turned to me at some point, and he goes, Dad, is this it? I'm like, what do you mean, is that it? Is this it? He goes, is this it? I said, is what it? What are you talking? He goes, is this the movie? I said, yeah, Bubba, we're sitting in the theater. You got popcorn. I got popcorn. Kevin's got popcorn. We all got popcorn. Don't tell your mom. We also got Raisinets and Goober. Don't tell your mom. And he's like, no, is this the movie? I'm like, yeah. He goes, it's like National Geographic. It's just a bunch of storms. There's no, what are they doing? I don't understand why, and there was no, it was the fantastical. It was the lore. But then you see a fun film like, what was that movie that Rene Russo did the remake with
The Thomas Crowne.
Yes. We all know it's farcical in a way. We all know it's not based in reality, but it was fun.
Yeah.
I like films like that. I really, that's. And did you see what was it, The Matador that Pierce Brosnan did?
No, is it good?
Dude.
I'll watch it this weekend.
Look, I had my own, he's a pretty boy and blah, blah, blah. And he's a very nice man. I've met him since. And I feel like such an asshole for being a judgmental, insecure, petty little putz. I admit it. And he's just very much a gentleman. And to see that movie, you're like, I want more Pierce Brosnan. He did such a phenomenal job. He plays a killer that has such a lilting charm and it becomes very believable. I don't know if you've ever met any killers. Have you met any killers?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Did they act like we see in the movie, like the badass?
No.
I'm very.
No, they're either very unassuming or very quiet, and you could tell there was something there, like a something off, but it wasn't the either like Jack Nicholson as the Joker kind of thing.
Correct.
Or these serial killers who are, brilliant Hannibal Lecter. Like that's not. Yeah.
There's a guy we worked with. My partner in the film content side is Larry Maestrich. Larry produced over 145 films, produced and distributed. He's won a couple Academy Awards. Very smart. Very, very. I feel very lucky to be sitting at the same table with him. He's and Larry's unfortunately got somewhat of an opinion of people going, well, he's very gruffer. I think he's associated with the mob. No, he just doesn't take bullshit. And he doesn't do the, although I will tell you, he did punch Harvey Weinstein and knock him out.
Oh, he's a superhero.
He's a superhero. I love him.
It's him and Brad Pitt are in that elite group.
A hilarious story of when he sold Billy Bob's film Sling Blade,
yeah,
to Miramax, and there was a big to-do over the edit, the final cut, and all that, and it ended with Billy Bob and they got Larry and Billy Bob fly from New York out to L.A. to meet with Weinstein about the recut they did of it, and Larry said, "Look, it needed to be cut. It was 4 hours long. The film you and I saw was 2.5 hours long, and it was still long." And Billy Bob had final cut. They didn't tell him. The guy who cut it was an Academy Award-winning editor, did a great job. And Larry wanted it handled the proper way to tell Billy Bob. Weinstein did, fuck you, I own it now. So they went out to talk about it. They go to the hotel room. Of course, they walk in the hotel room. There's 2 chairs. One for Billy Bob, one for Weinstein. And Larry said, well, we were relegated to stand off to the side where they had like some crudités and a couple of drinks, and there's the attorneys and the agents. And of course, Harvey's 45 minutes late coming out of his fucking bedroom. And what does he come out wearing? A goddamn robe with the robe open, and you can see his penis and his testicles. What a fucking asshole. And he sits down, with his legs spread, does the man spread.
Yeah.
And Billy Bob, something about, your junk is hanging out. And Weinstein calling him a hick, ignorant redneck, and Billy Bob going, well, you're a fucking pig, whatever. And they stood up and they're like nose to nose. Somebody slapped somebody first. I don't know who. Now, Larry grew up in the Bronx. Had no father. Had to fight his way tooth and nail. Larry came up through the film community, literally starting as a PA, then a Teamster, and a bidibidi, and a bidibidoo. And I don't know if you know, the company that he found, Shooting Gallery, was the preeminent independent film company in the 90s, the preeminent. And it's funny, he said, I'm standing to the side and I'm watching these two argue. And he said, all of a sudden they started hitting and they're like slapping each other. And he said, but wait a second, somebody's hitting my director. He goes, I got to protect my director. He goes, I just walked over real quiet and said one punch to the carotid artery, and Weinstein was out on the floor. He got arrested. They never pressed charges, and Weinstein tried to fuck Larry in many ways for years.
I bet.
As if I've got a couple of other friends who've been very successful at their craft. I won't say who they are. And they went toe to toe with Weinstein as well. And he tried to fuck them as much as he can.
Yeah.
He's a petty little fuck, just like our president's a petty little fuck.
Oh yeah, it's and you know, especially doing this show, I've actually heard a million stories about both of them that are similar. You know, where it's just like the smallest, weirdest thing that they decide is a huge offense to them, and they're gonna ruin somebody, and it's like it's such an insecurity that's like, why? What is your
What the fuck?
Yeah,
what are
what's
you
your
doing?
damage? Yeah,
Really, really,
Yeah.
you know.
it's
You're
people,
gonna go back to your cushy house either on Central Park West or Brentwood or fucking Bel Air, wherever. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It's people,
Really?
again, it goes back to people who've never had to actually fight for anything, or actually earn anything, or actually have a consequence to things they do. So they get this sort of fascination with minutia, and it's totally silly.
I'm not gonna say her name,
Feel
but
free.
we had I'm a very nice guy, Ken.
You are. That's true. I confirm.
I'm just a normal, grew up in a lower middle class, blue collar family. We worked with shovels and hammers. And I think, you know, people that do that, that's very honorable work, real work. We were shooting, and we've mentioned the movie in this interview. And this gal who's a popular film and Broadway actress is playing one of the sort of guest starring roles in the show. And one day when we're shooting a large scene, when there was maybe, instead of having like 2 principal actors, there was about 10 principal actors, and then maybe 50 to 100 extras. And we're in a contained spot. So they hire, you know, on those days, they're hiring extra makeup people, extra hair people, extra wardrobe people. And you got some person coming in doing a job that they haven't seen the characters before. They don't know the story. Everybody's trying to do their best job. And this one young lady used the wrong sponge on this actress. Now, yes, even now with COVID, you want to be careful. You don't want germs. But this chick fucking flipped out.
Yeah.
She made a public spectacle in front of the approximate 100 people on this set, crew and cast. And everybody sort of, you know when mom would flip out, when mom would be drunk and flip out. My mom never was.
No, I've heard people had that issue.
I've read about it in magazines.
Yeah.
And she's turning, looking for support, and she's like, "Right, Scott? Right? What?" And I'm like, "No, you're wrong. You're wrong. She made a mistake. Yes, she used the wrong little powder pad thingy, but you didn't have to fucking embarrass her in front of the whole goddamn room and belittle her and make her leave here in tears. You're a mean person. You're a very small, mean person. And what are you going to do? You're going to go home and feel like, ooh, I won. I told off somebody who's here for a day, who's half your age and just trying to do a good job. You could have handled it much better."
Yeah, I mean, there are people who believe that like the further they could push other people down, the further up that they go, and it's like that's not how it works. Like it's kind of the opposite of that. And it's I mean, I've had situations. I used to talk about this on stage in one of my stand-up bits, but this is true, where like, you know, I'm at a Dunkin' Donuts or something, and the person in front of me in line is just a garbage person, and they're, you know, just belittling the person who works there, who's working hard, and yells at them, and then they'll turn around to me and be like, "Can you believe this person?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, you're awful." And they just can't believe it. There was a woman who, the full bit, and this is verbatim, she was like, she goes, "I want 5 coffees, all the same. One of them has 4 Splendas in it. One of them is iced with like," and then proceeded to list 5 things that were not remotely the same. So then the person repeated it back and, you know, missed like one thing. And she was like, "Oh, no." And like, "You idiot." So the lady turned to me and she goes, "Can you believe this person?" And I go, "You know, I think I know what the problem is." And she goes, "What?" And I go, "I don't think you know what the same means." And she flipped out. But I'm like, you know, that poor person working there can't say that to her. But I would never even think to talk to someone that way, like people do to working people. And it's,
No.
it just, I guess your brain works different if you do that, but I can't imagine it.
No.
Can't imagine.
Yeah, I can't. No.
So I don't want to take up your whole night because I will. Was there anything else in here in this guide that stuck out to you on any of the nights? There's a picture of 5 Dachshunds hugging each other, which is very cute for a documentary called "It's a Dog's World."
No. Oh, dude, here's a couple of old shows that you were too young, but Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
And Rat Patrol. Remember Rat Patrol? Rat
Patrol. Everyone over the age of 35 that I have on the show is like, Rat Patrol is my favorite show. Awesome show. And it's so hard to see though. It doesn't stream on anything. It didn't really air in reruns, and it's a really cool show.
Very cool. I mean, other ones that like Peyton Place and Big Valley, those were like, oh, those are like, what? I don't want to see that. I want to see action. Let me see. I mean, Lucille Ball. Who didn't love Lucille Ball?
Is there anything you watch as like a comfort show, or any shows that you watched growing up that you like tried to get your sons to watch and were like, hey, this is great? And they were like, no. And people will say, in reference to my sons, are like, so what did they think about you being on TV? They didn't think anything. What do you mean? Yeah.
They didn't care. They no relevance for them whatsoever. No.
I hear that all the time. Everyone I know who has kids that is in the business, their kids treat it like any kid treats their parents' job. It's like, I don't care about your job. It's boring. Whatever. I don't care.
Your job's stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
They could not be less interested.
You dress up like an idiot, and you're like, I mean, who says that shit? God,
everything's embarrassing. Everything is embarrassing.
Everything. Yep. Everything. Now, here's a show I forgot. Loved it growing up. It Takes a Thief.
Yeah, that's a cool show. And for
that
people that don't remember, that show was sort of like The Dirty Dozen with one person. So we have to rehabilitate this thief to catch other thieves.
Well, it was sort of a little bit like Thomas Crowne Affair in kind of flavor and execution and plot lines. But no, there wasn't. I loved TV then. I fell out of love with stuff, and it was kind of coming out of the 80s and more in the 90s when comedy became belligerence.
Yeah, mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think mean is funny at all.
It's only funny when that person is the butt of the joke, when the mean person gets their comeuppance.
Correct. Yes. Because you got guys like, come on, Seinfeld. He does, his mean is nice mean.
Yeah.
You got guys like, what's his name? The one with the 5 kids, the Irish guy, Gaffigan.
Oh, Jim Gaffigan, yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious. And it doesn't rely on, butt, penis, vagina jokes. And look, the thing with, what's her name? The very pretty Jewish girl.
You're thinking of Sarah Silverman, I think.
Sarah Silverman. Back when I was producing and she was just coming out and her agent was friends with me. Like, oh, you got to see this new comedian. Oh, you got to. I went and watched her stuff. And then after it was like, well, come meet her after it. And I just don't think being raped by your father is something funny.
Yeah, it gets a reaction. I think that one of the things if people at home are playing TV Guidance Counselor Bingo, I'm going to mention Dance Macabre. But Stephen King wrote a nonfiction book about horror called Dance Macabre. It was his, he taught a class at University of Maine, and this was basically his class, his class notes written into a book. But I always recommend it to people who want to write comedy because he basically breaks down the mechanics of horror, and it's identical to comedy. It's exactly the same, but the payoff is just different. And for some reason, people, when they read this book, they get it more than when I try to explain shock humor to them, where I'm like, you making those kind of jokes or like a rape joke or whatever it is, you're going to get a reaction out of the audience, but it's going to be at the expense of them trusting you, them liking you, and them ever wanting to hear it again. It's very fleeting. It's the same thing as throwing the cat at somebody in a horror movie. Like, they jump, but now they don't trust you, and they're kind of like, ugh, and you spent all that capital you had. And it's the same thing. I think people confuse a reaction with a genuine laugh, and it's
well, it was also, her jokes, not even jokes, her comments about her pussy, her vagina, her cunt, whatever the hell she was. And it'd be like, you as a comedian, imagine if you went up and you did your whole set was about your penis, your cock.
I've seen
your
people
dick,
do it.
And it's, are we back in middle school? Is that where we're at? Really? Is that?
Yeah, it's boring. It's boring and it's easy. It's just like a low bar. And it's, especially with stand-up, which is a whole other thing, but I'm like, it's weird for you to just get on a stage and go, people want to listen to me. So if you're going to do that, make it interesting and give them a reason to listen to you, not just like a drunk person yelling horrific things like that. People will listen to that person, but not for the reason you want them to.
Not for the no. Or like Stephen Wright. Remember Stephen Wright?
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Steve's still around. He's a real strange guy. He always was. But
dude.
Yeah, he won an Oscar. He won an Oscar for best short film. He made a couple of short films, and he lives in the woods outside of Boston, and he occasionally shows up. I remember I used to host a weekly stand-up show, and one night he just came to the show, and it was a light night. There was like 4 people in the audience, and Stephen Wright comes in, and the owner of the club was like, "Go ask Stephen if he wants to do a set," which I hate doing. And so I was like, I really don't want it. So, but I go over, and then he goes, "No, I'm just watching the show. I just wanted to see you." But it was like, he's that kind of guy. He's just like,
But his observations were so obtuse, so quixotic, but so, oh my God, he's right.
Only he can do it. Only he can. Like I always say, there's sort of two camps in comedy. There's, you can write a joke so funny that anyone tells it and it gets a laugh, or you can do something that is so unique and weird, everyone who sees it loves it, but when they try to explain it to other people, that people are like, I don't understand why that's funny. Like, you have to see it. Only that one person can do it. And that's a lot harder to do, but it's so much more satisfying for the person in the audience. And that's what he did. It was so uniquely him. And it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
And he was just
very
like
hard.
that. I mean, the story, there's a great documentary called When Stand Up Stood Out about the history of Boston comedy. And Stephen was the guy that nobody thought anything of, because it was all a lot of brash Boston guys who'd be like, the fucking Chinese food waiter's up here, and he's all, like doing that kind of stuff. And the booker for the Tonight Show came to town because his kid was going to Emerson. He catches Stephen and books him on the Tonight Show immediately, and the rest of the city was livid. They're like, that weirdo, this was our show. We're going to, and they couldn't understand. But it's like, well, look at no one's doing that. That's why he got, and it's fascinating how the guys who think they're the shit, when the under the radar person who's doing something interesting gets something, they can't understand it.
No.
And that's how it is. It's crazy. Well, to wrap up, is there anything you're watching in lockdown or anything you've been enjoying to try to get through the days?
No, because it's funny. I've worked from home for a decade now, and we visit our clients. We fly to visit, so it's not like you have to have people come in for meetings. And I pretty much, my work day starts 7, 8 in the morning and goes to about 7, 8 at night. And then it's like eat dinner and then try to watch something and fall asleep. And if I told you what I watch, you'd laugh, because I sound like an old cotter. I love watching stuff on HGTV and DIY. I love, there's, some of it gets a little bit much, like the Chip and Joanna, the guy Chip.
Oh, yeah.
Who they've been extremely successful, but Chip's like, he's trying to be kitschy and goofy and like an actor that wants to play with props all the time. And then there are other people that I love seeing I love when it works, when they're a couple. I don't care if it's a man and a woman or 2 gay guys or whatever, when they're able to work together and bring something positive, that makes me happy.
I'll recommend one show to you. There's a guy who was the restoration guy on the Property Brothers, if you ever saw that show. California guy. He's basically like a cowboy surfer dude.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he did a show called Restored, and he just restores historical houses.
Yes, I watched it.
I love that show so much because he's so into it. Like, they'll rip the wall off and he's like, dude, there's the original tile. Like, he's just really enthusiastic.
Like, look at that. Isn't that great? And he's got that bit and he hugs people. And yes.
Buckle,
and he wears the cowboy.
Big cowboy hat. I've been watching that kind of thing because it's like very positive and low stakes and everyone's good at their job and you're just like, yeah.
Actually, I'm thinking there were 2 shows that were on recently that I thought were excellent. One was The Affair on Showtime. And the guy who shot that, Steven Fierberg, shot a movie that I had produced 20 years ago, and Fierberg made the movie. He's just a fucking genius, just a great guy. And then the other show, which was only a limited run, was the Fosse Verdon show. The gal, look, both of them.
Was it Michelle Williams in it?
Yes. The actor who did a phenomenal job, I think he's an excellent actor, Sam Rockwell.
Oh, yeah, Sam Rockwell's great.
Sam Rockwell and Michelle Williams. They were both, and Sam Rockwell, he's the kind of actor, he's almost like the guy who died. He was in Boogie Nights, was his big break.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes. Sam Rockwell, every time he does a movie, it's a different person. Because a lot of actors, it bugs me when they put on clothes and read lines that somebody else wrote. And it's like, oh, I'm a different guy now. No, you're not. You're the same guy you were in the movie you did last week.
Rockwell's amazing. I mean, he played Chuck Barris in the Gong Show movie.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Yes. And he did a phenomenal job. He did. Oh, there's lots of stories about the Gong Show. You and I could go on and on about that.
Well, someday we'll have to, if lockdown ever ends and I get back out to LA or you're in the East Coast, we'll have to grab lunch sometime and share a lot of Gong Show stories because I get some good ones too. Well, brother, this has been truly a pleasure. Candidly speaking, I've listened to a few of your these.
Oh, thank you. And I've wanted to do this for a long time. I think you do a phenomenal job. You really do. You are. You're really good at it. You do your homework with regard to your guest, and your questions are very astute and very poignant.
That's Scott. How great is he? What a good dude. Had a great time talking to him. I'm glad we finally got to do this. Known him for years, and we've been trying to make it happen for a while. And sadly, we've not been in the same city at the same time. But hey, silver lining, global pandemic. We can do it virtually, and we had a great chat. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure you did. I don't know how you couldn't, and I certainly did. If you'd like to email me, you could do so at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com. Also on social media at tvguidance, one word, there's no space there, or at Kenneth W. Reed, R-E-I-D, spell it the Scottish way, like anyone would know that, but that's fine. In addition, we're here each and every week, and we have a Patreon if you want to go to patreon.com/tvguidancecounselor. I do not expect you to give any money to that Patreon, as I know times are tough for everybody, but to those who do, again, I cannot thank you enough. If you don't have money to give to the Patreon, it's perfectly okay. Hey, tell a friend about the show. Spread the word. We're 7 years in, but I always like to expand the audience, and if you know somebody who you think would like the show, why not suggest they listen to it? Also, that's Pete. He's yelling, so I gotta go attend to whatever's happening there. It's probably just more marauders trying to break into my house to get my stash of goldfish crackers in the apocalypse, and I'll have to fight them off again. But it's weekly, and I'm getting good at it. So anyway, we'll see you again next week for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
Ken Reed was in that, made gazillions of dollars because you got Kenny Reed.